This is Trinesha Catrell, and welcome to First Love Yourself, where love, life, and Christ combine. I am so grateful to have you here on this journey of self discovery and empowerment with me. In today's video, we're going to talk about doubt, but no diggity, no doubt. But before we get started, if you're new here, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on more uplifting and empowering content like this. So get comfortable because we are about to get into it. Let's go. Okay, so earlier today I'm reading the Bible. I'm in Mark 16, which is the last chapter of Mark in the Bible before it goes on to Luke. And so in this part of the chapter, it starts to talk about Jesus and how he's resurrected from the dead, and how the angel comes and says to Mary, and I think it's both Marys. I'm gonna have to recheck it. You might have to fact check me. But angel says that Jesus is risen. Jesus goes to the disciples. People don't want to believe that it's happening, but it's happening. And it really made me think about how doubtful we can be in life. How sometimes we can really start to think, well, we don't see anything happening, so that means it's never going to happen. We don't see God moving in our life, so we think that God forgot about us, or God's not going to do the thing that he promised us. But one thing that I think that we should always remember is that God is a God that he cannot lie. He's not the type of God that's going to tell you something and then turn around and then take it back, like as if you don't matter to him, because we all matter to God. And so here's a few things that happen in the doubting season, in the season where we feel like we don't see anything. And I'm going to give you some answers to how to remedy these things so that they don't overtake your mind, they don't overtake your life, and you can have direction when you're in the season of in between, when you're in the season of waiting on an answered prayer, when you're in the season of working for something that you don't see yet. You don't see the result, but you're in the journey. You're not at the destination. So, this acronym that I ended up praying about spells out doubt. The first D, of course, is for doubt itself. And that's when you're doubting God because of the time period. So, as I was saying, you could be in a period of your life where you've been praying for this husband. And I only say it like that because that's the first thing that pops into my mind. And I know there's a lot of people that can resonate with this. But you've been praying and praying, God, send me Boaz, send me this man that I want so badly. And sometimes when we're in that season of praying for things, we forget that we have to do the work to actually get it. We forget that you don't just get this man just because you're a godly woman. You don't just get this man because you think you're ready. God will send him when you're actually ready, when he is actually ready for you. And sometimes you're doing everything that you need to do, except there's one more thing in purpose that you have to do before you guys can go into purpose together, before you guys can become one and then start to really be a force up in this world. And so sometimes we really feel like, okay, God, I'm ready for this new position. And the whole time you're not being a good steward of the position you're already in. You can say, okay, God, I'm ready for this man, and you haven't prepared in any way for this man. You can say, okay, God, I'm ready for all of these things. Excuse me, all of these things that you pray for, and the whole time you're not ready. So you start to doubt God because you don't see it right away. But who said that God had to move on your time? It's kind of like that story of Abram in the Bible when he decided to. And for those of you that don't know, like little ears, close ears, everything else, right? But Abram and his wife, they have been waiting to have a child forever. They was getting old as I don't know what. And God is like telling them, no, you're going to really have a kid. And they want to be doubtful. They're like, okay, well, we don't see the fruits of our labor. We don't see nothing happening. So obviously God forgot about us, and God never forgot. They just were in the waiting period. And so while they were waiting, they took things into their own hands, kind of like we do in life. We like, okay, well, we're waiting. God is saying rest. Let me go work on the business on my own strength and try to do all these things to make things happen the way that I want them to. And God's saying it's not time yet. You're working on it, and you're doing all of these things, and God is not even ready for you to be in that position yet. And so he goes and he has a one of the people that's helping out, like a slave servant, whatever. She's in the house, and his wife says, "Okay, you can sleep with the servant." So he goes and he does it because his wife gives him permission, and it's a whole other thing. And they have this son, Ishmael, and right after I don't know how long, because you know in the Bible it's one line and then another line, and then the next thing you know, you think it happened the next day, but really it happened months later or a year later. But God goes silent in His time after He has a kid with the servant girl, and He doesn't say anything. And then finally He has His own son, and God tells him to sacrifice His son for him. He goes to sacrifice his son, and all of a sudden the ram starts to make some noise. It's a ram in the bush. And he says, "You don't have to do this." He just wanted to test him to see how badly he really wanted that thing, because after he took things into his own hands, God wanted him to prove to him that he was still being faithful, that he still trusted him, even though he had taken, God had taken his time. He was doing things in his time, not Abram's time. And Abraham and Sarah, which Abram and Abraham are the same person, but Abram was Abraham before his purpose came to fruition. And that's kind of how we are. We're kind of in the Abram season. We are in the waiting season. We're in the journey. And Abraham is when we're in purpose. Abraham is when we really are trusting God, when we really do get the things that God intended for us to have in our lives. But in order for us to get that, we have to be faithful, and we can't be doubtful. We can't have doubt and not believe that God is going to come through when He says He's going to come through. He's going to come through. We just have to be patient. Next thing is the O. The O is objecting to obedience. Sometimes, ooh, I was doing this when I was younger, and you know, I have to really check myself now to make sure I stay in line. But sometimes we don't get the thing, and we're in this waiting season because we're being disobedient. We refuse to obey what God wants us to do because we think we got a better way. We think that if we do it this way, it's going to be faster, it's going to be quicker, and the whole time it's going to take the same amount of time, but you're just creating more headache for yourself. You're creating more storms, more trials, more tribulations, more tests that God wasn't even fitting to send you, and a fight that you were not even destined to fight because we wanted to rush into the next season. Because we felt like we could just do it our way. We don't have to listen to God. We could do things that we want to do when we want to do them. And sometimes it gets like that because we really just start to think about how it can benefit us and not how it can benefit God. But it's really important for us to be obedient in the waiting season, knowing that God is going to come through. We just have to be patient and obey. The next thing is the U. We have a lack of understanding. We choose to try to see things from our own hands. We try to play victim. Oh, woe is me. Oh, it seems like everything's always happening. If it ain't one thing, it's another thing. But there's so many blessings that we are turning a blind eye to because we want things when we want them. Instead of appreciating the fact that we're breathing in and out, God's grace and mercy, instead of appreciating the fact that we have friends that we can turn to, instead of appreciating the fact that we have a house to live in, a car to drive, or even if you don't have a car, you have somebody that's willing to take you somewhere. Your health is in order. If your health is not in order, you know that you are stronger than you've ever been. Your faith is stronger than it's ever been. But before we can really start to appreciate the life that we have, we start to really feel like, oh, woe is me. It's oh, it seems like everybody's always picking on me. Oh, everybody's got this but me. But if you're thinking in that mindset, you are not emotionally intelligent enough to receive this blessing yet. You're only emotionally intelligent enough when you really are patient, when you really show real true patience and real true obedience. When you're in a position where you can really wait the right way, knowing that you're not trying to rush God, knowing that you're really seeking to say, okay, God, you haven't given me this thing yet, but I understand it's because I might have to do more of this. God, show me what it is that I'm lacking in the season so that I could be prepared for the things that you have for me, prepared for the blessings that you have for me. And God, really guide me so that I'm not going to block my own blessings. Really make sure that you remove me out of my own way. That's what my prayer is now. Like in this season, it's God, move me from standing in your way, because I know what I want it to look like. I know what I've been praying for. And I know when I put it in your hands, you're going to come through. But in this season, sometimes when things are so good, I might block my own blessings. And my prayer for this season for me, and I hope for all of you as well, is so that you don't self-sabotage something that God is doing in your life because you're so used to having something bad happen, or you're so used to the bare minimum or breadcrumbs, or you're so used to someone not seeing your value, or you being the only person. I used to have this joke with God. I'd be like, God, me and you the only ones that see my worth. And I know it's like a little, like, some people are cringe and some people are like, oh my gosh, but don't feel bad for me. I'm good. But I used to have that joke like, God, me and you the only ones that see my value, the only ones that know that I'm worthy. There's other people in the world and they may love me, they may not love me, whatever else. But when it comes to the situation, it's really feeling like I know my worth, but nobody was willing to do that to get to know me. And so, but that's neither here nor there. It's all in God's timing. And I just want to make sure that in this season and every season of my life to come, that I'm not self-sabotaging, that I'm really taking the time to really just listen to God and what it is that He wants me to do, and not just the things that I want to do. That I'm really not blocking any of my blessings, because the blessing is going to come from a person. We all need each other. And the division is something that's really from the adversary. God intended for us to be working together, not for us to be at each other, at opponents with one another, not for us to just be in competition with one another, because it's not a competition. What's for you is for you, and can't nobody ever take it from you. Always remember that. The next thing is believing. Sometimes we really feel like we could do it on our own. Oh, I got this. I'm self-made. It's me, myself, and I. I do all these things. I. And we forget that God sent us friends to help us. We forget that sometimes the blessings are attached to a person. Sometimes the blessings are attached to that colleague at work who wasn't on your side, but God could turn your enemies into your footstool. Sometimes we forget that God will attach a blessing to another person so that you can bless other people as well. Your blessing, your gifts are not just for you, it's for you to be a blessing to other people. It's for other people to see God within you. And in order for them to see that, you have to really walk like you know it. You really have to talk like you know it. You really have to believe that you know, that you know who you are, and open your hand to receive the blessings that God has for you. Do not block your blessings. The last thing is to talk. When you're talking without listening. Ooh, oh my gosh. Sometimes we really feel like our opinion is the only one that matters. People will say stuff and we'll be like, well, I felt like this, and she did this way, and we want to tell our side of the story so bad. And before I jumped down on people and people thought I was going to really go in a direction where I was going to really get on somebody because they feel like they don't ever do this. But the people who talk without listening most of the time are the ones that are always ignored. So I feel for you out there, whoever's watching this video, that feels like you're never heard, feels like your thoughts always seem insignificant. Like everybody else always has an opinion, and when you go to speak up, nobody wants to listen to you. Everybody puts you in a box of the person that they think that you are when you know who you are. That's why it's so important to know who you are, because not everybody is going to see you the way that God sees you. Not everybody is going to know your potential. You have to know your potential. And the people who are supposed to be a part of your life will see that in you. The people who are supposed to be there for you will see that you're really special. They'll see that you really have this value. They'll see that you're really worthy. And thank God that the people who will not appreciate you don't see your value, because they were never supposed to be a part of your life in the first place, and you're better off without them. You're not gonna catch me on these videos using the old cliche term, I can do bad all by myself. I know what people mean when they say that, but I'm telling you, whoever you are watching this, you can do better by yourself. I know, like, for most women that are single that really want to be in a relationship, when you hear I could do bad all by myself, what that really makes you feel like is, if I'm gonna do bad by myself and bad with this person, then I want a warm body. And I'm just saying that to be real, because people don't want to say that because they want to act like I'm INDEPENDENT. Do you know what that means? Right? We want to really front and act like we don't really want people. But there was a study that was done when the 19 was out, right? And it really showed that people need people. And even God says that we need each other. So do not feel ashamed for wanting a person, but know your value. And when you're waiting for the person that God has for you, do not settle for anything less than his best. Because God didn't intend for you to settle for that. God intended for you to be valued, for you to be appreciated, for you to be more valuable than rubies, for you to be more important than many sparrows. He intended for you to be the head and not the tail, a holy nation, a royal priesthood. He intended for you to be valuable because you are. When you were born to remedy a solution to something. So never ever feel like you're worthless because you are worthy of everything that God has for you. You might not be worthy of his continued grace and mercy, but you are definitely worthy of being treated like a person with dignity and respect. Know that. So, when it comes to doubt, the way to remedy doubt is to know that all things are possible with God. When you truly believe in yourself, when you know that with the world it's impossible, with by yourself it may be impossible, know that when it's you and the people who are supposed to be a part of your life that God placed there, anything is possible. With the God, all things are possible. So there's no need to doubt because of timing. There's no need to doubt because you feel like, well, I've been doing this for so long and maybe I'm not doing it right. When you take it to God and he's saying continue do what you're doing, then continue doing what you're doing until he says stop. Rest when he tells you to rest so that you'll have enough energy for the purpose. And know that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Believe in yourself and always remember to love